Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International. My name is Frama Panyan. Shagun Ajayi is the sign language interpreter. Let's begin with the headlines. United Arab Emirates quits OPEC come May 1. And China hands over new headquarters building to ECOWAS, announces zero tariff for African exports. And the House of Representatives approved $516 million loan for Sokoto-Badagry Highway. And now the news in details. The new headquarters building for the ECOWAS has been completed and handed over by the government of the People's Republic of China to the president of ECOWAS Commission in Abuja. The project represents a symbol of the growing ties between China and the regional bloc. Kelvin Ibunoye reports.
The ECOWAS headquarters, a $56.5 million gift from the China aid, took a little over 2 years to complete. A magnificent 9-floor edifice will provide accommodation for staff of ECOWAS Commission and its institutions. Each floor has a conference and meeting room complete with interpretation systems. There is also a central hall, clinic, gym, restaurant, and a parking lot for 700 vehicles. Described as a regional masterpiece, etched in classic Chinese architecture and a blend of West African culture, it is not just a building but a symbol of shared aspirations and cooperation between China and West African countries.
China stands resolutely with Africa on the right side of history. We will continue to honor our solemn pledge to be Africa's good friend, good partner, and good brothers. Together, we inject stability and positive energy into a changing world, contributing our collective strength to the cause of human progress.
This is not the first time China has partnered with ECOWAS in advancing regional integration. In recent years, the government of China has supported our peace and security architecture through the provision of strategic equipment and vehicles to enhance the operational readiness of ECOWAS standby force.
This new headquarters, therefore, symbolizes more than administrative convenience. It is a strategic asset that will enhance institutional effectiveness, an asset that will deepen collaboration among member states and reinforce the capacity of the Commission to respond to emerging regional and global challenges.
As the Minister of State for FCT, Dr. Maria Mahmoud puts it, at a time when West Africa faces myriad of challenges, this new headquarters building rises to remind the region that it must never surrender to division. The formal inauguration will take place at a later date and will be performed by President Bola Tinubu and the President of Sierra Leone, who is also the chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. In Abuja, Kelvin Ibunoye, NTA News.
Meanwhile, China is working to expand its cooperation with Nigeria in agriculture and food security, targeting export. To this end, China is to implement zero-tariff market access for 53 African countries, with Nigeria leading the race to raise agricultural production to reap the benefits of these new export frontiers. The Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Yu Donghai, and the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Aliyu Omar Toure, who addressed a joint press conference in Abuja, expressed optimism that the move will advance the relations between China and Africa. The zero-tariff market access is expected to take effect from May 1st, 2026. The federal government has restated commitment towards repositioning the fisheries and aquaculture sector as a key pillar of national economy through sustainable fish production, improved value addition, as well as enhanced access to domestic and regional markets. This came to the fore at the opening of a 2-day African Continental Free Trade Area AFCFTA ECOWAS workshop on women and youth in the fisheries and aquaculture value chains holding in Abuja. Chukunonsonwabweze reports.
Fisheries and aquaculture sector records review remains one of the critical areas the African continent can achieve food security, job creation, as well as poverty reduction. This gathering of regional policymakers, trade experts and industry stakeholders in Abuja, Nigeria's capital city, seeks to address the challenges and opportunities for regional integration within West Africa's fisheries sector, with a specific focus on economic empowerment for women and youth, leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Area framework.
A lot of our women operate in the informal space, particularly when it comes to fisheries. But we need you to scale up. We need you to consider formalizing your processes so that whatever benefits there are in formalization, you can get them, including access to finance.
Just like in East Africa, one of the key barriers that we are seeing to that is the high cost of fish. So our aim as this program, and in collaboration with other partners like Wild Fish, are looking at what are the innovations that we can scale up around feed production.
We engaged with our ECOWAS regional experts to see how the AFCFTA Secretariat and ECOWAS can work together and see how we can address a number of barriers or challenges that you are facing when trading in fish and fish products.
Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, Fatima Sugra Mahmood, in a message, highlights ongoing reforms in the nation's fisheries and aquaculture sector, pledging Nigeria's resolve to deepen collaboration with partners within ECOWAS and beyond.
The Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy remains committed to working with regional and continental institutions, development partners, and the private sector to advance a fisheries and aquaculture sector that is inclusive, resilient, and globally competitive.
Outcomes of the workshop are expected to bolster policy coherence, enhance investment opportunities, and accelerate the inclusion of women and youth into regional and continental fisheries trade. Chukunonsonwabweze, NTN News.
With millions of Nigerians spread across 6 continents, contributing substantially through remittances, which in recent years has averaged over $20 billion annually, has made Nigeria one of the top remittance receiving countries in Africa. The Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research, NISA, in collaboration with Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, united by the shared commitments, are advancing Nigeria's development through informed engagement with the diaspora community to collectively gather data for an evidence-driven policy making. Deborah Balagbogo reports.
Several key decisions are expected from the workshop as outcomes to include the refinement and validation of the study's finding through expert input, strengthening the policy recommendations for diaspora engagement. This ensures they are practical and implementable, fostering enhanced stakeholder consensus on critical diaspora-related issues and generate actionable strategy for effective harnessing of diaspora contributions.
So the thematic underpinning of this workshop is clear: to professionally interrogate the findings of this 6-continent survey, the authenticity, the accuracy, and relevance, and together we'll fine-tune the policy recommendations as a roadmap and framework for engagement with our global diaspora. And the recommendations, we look forward to the recommendations, which, as I said, will be properly presented to the federal government of Nigeria.
The report has the findings from all locations, but this validation workshop is an opportunity to listen to the harvest of opinions that we have received from the various locations. We look at the differences and we look at the similarities, and then we want you, from your experience with working with persons in diaspora, to tell us whether this is in line or is not in line.
Presentations on study objectives and methodology, findings and diaspora engagement, good practices and lessons for Nigerians were part of discussions at the workshop. In Abuja, Deborah Balagubo, NT News.
The International Criminal Court (ICC) orders reparations of 7.25 million euros for the victims of former Malian jihadist leader Al-Hassan, who was found guilty in 2024 of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Comfort Fashion has the details.
The International Criminal Court had in 2024 found the Malian jihadist leader Al-Hassan guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity, including terrorism, and was jailed for 10 years. During the continuation of the terrorism case in The Hague, the court ordered that the victims of the war crime should be compensated and announced $8.5 million for the compensation. The collective rehabilitation measures ordered by the ICC, which sit in The Hague, will include socio-economic support, educational programs or trainings, and psychological support, a statement read. It added those who suffered torture and other acts of mutilation will receive individualized rehabilitation programs. Women and girls suffered particularly moral and material harms as a result of the crime of persecution, which had to be reflected in the implementation of reparations.
Mr. Al-Hassan, who was a senior member of the Islamic Police, was found guilty of 3 counts of crimes against humanity and 5 counts of war crimes, namely persecution on religious grounds, torture, mutilation, other inhumane acts, cruel treatment, outrages upon personal dignity, and passing of sentences without previous judgment pronounced by a regularly constituted court affording all judicial guarantees.
The chamber assessed Mr. Al-Hassan's liability for reparations at approximately €7,250,000, and that is equivalent of $4,755,688,250 sefa, said Presiding Judge Kimberly Post. Comfort, Fashion, NTA News.
In other news, the United Arab Emirates has announced quitting her membership from the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and the wider OPEC Plus alliance. Again, Comfort Fashion reports that the country's Minister of Energy announced May 1st, 2026 as the exit day.
The country has long been one of the cartel's top producers, typically ranking 3rd after Saudi Arabia and Iraq, and possesses substantial spare production capacity. In a statement, the UAE Minister of Energy and Infrastructure said the move follows a comprehensive review of the country's production policy, current capabilities, and future capacity. It described the decision as driven by national interest and the UAE's evolving energy strategies. The ministry said after leaving, the UAE plans to pursue an independent output strategy, gradually ramp up production, and continue acting responsibly by aligning additional supply with global market demands and needs. It also expressed appreciation for OPEC and OPEC Plus and wished the group's continued success. The announcement comes amid ongoing tensions within the alliance over production quotas and follows years of reported frustrations by the UAE with output restrictions that have limited its ability to fully utilize its expanded capacity. Analysts view this exit as a significant blow to OPEC, stripping the group of a major and influential member at a time of complex global energy dynamics. The UAE has emphasized that the step reflects its long-term strategic vision, including greater flexibility in oil production and continued investment in its domestic energy sector, while reaffirming its commitment to a stable and responsible role in global energy markets. Comfort, Fashion, NTA News.
Thanks for staying tuned. And now from the National Assembly, the House of Representatives has approved President Bola Tinubu's $516 million United States loan request to fund key sections of the Sokoto-Badagry Superhighway Section 1, Phase 1A and 1B. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo has more on these and other resolutions at Tuesday's plenary.
First sitting of the week, accompanied by the exchange of pleasantries, Speaker Tajuddin Abbas called the House to order, and the day's business took off with an executive communication from the President, seeking approval for a loan facility to fund the construction of the Sokoto-Badagry Superhighway. The loan request was accorded expeditious consideration.
On the request for approval of the total sum of $560,333,007 syndicated financing from Deutsche Bank AG and approved recommendations.
The issue of road infrastructure continued with Representative Hussaini Jallo drawing the attention of the Federal Ministry of Works on the need to review the Kaduna Western Bypass and Kaduna Zaria Highway projects,
and include the construction of flyovers and pedestrian bridges at identified high-risk area within Kaduna Eastern Bypass and Zaria Highway.
Members moved to unlock Nigeria's industrial chemical potential as the Research Institute for Chemical Technology Establishment Bill was considered and passed. The bill, sponsored by House Leader Julius Ihobere, is to ensure conversion of indigenous raw materials into valuable chemicals, while the bill for the establishment of a joint doctrine and warfare center, sponsored by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas and Representative Daniel Asama, passed second reading. It seeks to enhance the coordination and effectiveness of military operations of armed forces of Nigeria by integrating the capabilities of its respective services.
For the development of chemical, biological, and man-made fiber technologies for industrial application in Nigeria.
It establishes a permanent platform for defense research, simulations, and policy coordination, enhancing national security and sustainability.
The bill for an act to provide for the establishment and functions of the Legislative Security Directorate in the National Assembly and provide for the qualification and condition of service of the Sergeant-at-Arms and other personnel of the Directorate was passed. Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Sports from Yobe State, Mohammed Jajere, defected from the PDP to APC. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTN News.
And now talking party matters, the governing All Progressive Congress APC has formally begun the sales of expression of interest and nomination forms for all political office seekers preparatory to its scheduled primary ahead of 2027 general elections. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was first to pick forms for the party's presidential ticket. Political correspondent Abubakar Akwanga reports.
Finally, the long-awaited season for the takeoff of major political events in the country has arrived, and in compliance with the INEC timetable for 2027 elections, the governing All Progressives Congress APC is now taking the front seat. And with the platform for sales of expression of interest and nomination forms widely opened, political office seekers are in high spirit to register and advance their intentions beyond primary contests. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was first to secure his forms, and APC support groups are behind the new chapter of racing for the highest office for a second term, a mission they referred to as necessary for the consolidation of gains achieved.
By the grace of God, I am the representative of Mr. President in the House of Rep. So for all support groups who have made efforts, who have contributed money to purchase the form, I have done so on their behalf. Political parties can come together as part of democracy. We will do our work, they will do their work, and we will prevail.
Considering the large number of House of Assembly members we have across the country, so that the children can be busy just like we are busy here, so that they can sell the forms. After verifying that each aspirant has paid, then they can give them the forms.
The party scheduled May 23 and 25 for presidential primary and appeals and promised to provide a level playing ground for a hitch-free, credible and transparent process, and appealed to members to apply themselves to all requirements and procedures. The venue for the sales and return of forms is now a beehive as supporters in large numbers turn out in solidarity of their preferred aspirants ahead of slated dates for primaries into various political offices. In Abuja, Abubakar Akwanga, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, has formally written to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN, Justice Kudirat Tomori Kekereekun, pleading for quick delivery of judgment in the leadership tussle of the party at the national level. The party claimed that it will suffer irreparable harm if judgment in the protracted battle was not delivered by the Supreme Court during the period allowed by the Electoral Act to field candidates for the 2027 general elections. The Supreme Court had on April 22nd reserved judgment delivery in the ADC crisis till a date that will be communicated to parties involved in the tussle. A 5-member panel of the Apex Court, led by Justice Garba Mohammed, reserved its verdict shortly after lawyers representing parties adopted their briefs of argument and for and against the appeal. However, sensing dangers in any further delay in the judgment delivery, the party raised a deep concern that it will not be able to participate in the forthcoming general election. The Save Our Soul letter of the ADC to the CJN, authorized by its lead counsel and senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN, Shaibu Enejo Arua, was specific that the party will have no role to play in the 2027 general elections unless the judgment is delivered within 3 days starting from today. Now, the faction of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, led by Major Gilbert Agbo, has strengthened legal action should INEC delay further its recognition as the authentic leadership of the party. Addressing a World News Conference in Abuja, Major Agbo raised concerns that further delay of its recognition could hinder the party's chances to participate in the 2027 general election. He argued that all court judgments over the leadership crisis in the party since 2024 recognized him as the authentic national chairman and upheld the expulsion of the Ajuji-led group, wondering why INEC was taking so long to comply with the judgments.
Finally, the highest of all the judgments, they were a appeal court judgment, which went ahead to confirm all the other judgments. So we are now waiting to see if INEC would have any reason. If they want to ignore high court judgments, we're waiting to see if they will also ignore an appeal court judgment. As I speak to you now, there are no records of appeal against that high court judgment, that appeal court judgment in the Supreme Court. There is also no stay of execution anywhere. So we are waiting for INEC. We will see what would happen. But we have this firm belief that before the end of this week, INEC will do what they need to do. It is our hope that INEC will take seriously the obligation and responsibilities of ensuring that they don't take sides in issues that border on the leadership of political parties.
The Agbo-led National Working Committee also dissociated from the Ibadan Summit of opposition parties, which resolved to field a consensus presidential candidate in the 2027 election. He said whoever attended the meeting in the name of the NNPP is an imposter and does not have the mandate of the NNPP. Now, the National Council on Nutrition has adopted the National Policy on Food and Nutrition 2026 to 2035 and directed the Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning to present the policy to the Federal Executive Council for ratification. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports that the adoption of the policy was part of decisions taken by the Council at its 15th meeting held virtually and chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima. The Council's approval followed a process of ratification by critical stakeholders in Nigeria's nutrition sector. The Vice President urged members of the Council to be guided by the reality that behind statistics discussed at the meeting.
Third, on nutrition financing, I wish to commend the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare for the subcommittee's work. 5 financing streams have been identified: domestic, bilateral, multilateral, private sector, and innovative. Council approves the 4-week extension, and Council further approves the inclusion of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, the Commissioners of Finance Forum, and Algon in the subcommittee.
We are fully in support, and all the steps you have taken, including ensuring that our national development plans, our national, all policies that we need in place, we are working to ensure that we achieved.
Shetima described the 2026 to 2035 National Policy on Food and Nutrition as the most viable nutrition policy Nigeria has produced, describing it as a multi-sectorial approach designed with evidence drawn from grassroots. He also directed all 36 states and the FCT to operationalize state multi-sectorial plans of action for food and nutrition within 9 to 6 months. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare Professor Muhammad Ali Pati says the newly commissioned laboratory extensions, solar energy system and sequencing facility at the Maiduguri National Polio Laboratory will strengthen Nigeria's capacity and disease surveillance, research and emergency preparedness. Speaking during the commissioning of the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, the minister noted that while the facility was originally designed as a polio reference lab, it now has expanded capabilities to handle a wide range of pathogens, including yellow fever and emerging viruses. Professor Pati expressed appreciation to the World Health Organization and other partners for their support in expanding the facility and providing solar power to ensure uninterrupted operations. The minister encouraged staff and trainees to fully utilize the facility to advance research and capacity development, reaffirming federal government's commitment to supporting innovation in the health sector and sustaining progress towards polio eradication.
The Medical Teaching Hospital is now equipped, upgraded with good energy, and we have the sequencing capability for not only polio viruses but other viruses, arboviruses, measles, rubella, and yellow fever. And we're able to have the surveillance system to be able to test samples and know the results in our own soil without having to refer them elsewhere. That's important not only for eradication of polio viruses, but also potentially for our preparedness for other outbreaks of disease that we may not even be aware of. The fact that we have this capability here is an excellent development, not only for Nigeria, but for West Africa. I believe that this is very good, and we have capable...
And that's the news. Thanks for being a part of it. I am Frama Panyan. Shagwa Ajayi has been the sign language interpreter. Bye for now.